Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, business rates, they're the commercial version of council tax, and in April they're set to change for the first time in 7 years to reflect the shift in property values in many areas. But some of the revaluations are so dramatic that many businesses, big and small, are worried about the impact. Some even fear they could be put out of business. But the government maintains that more will end up benefiting from the changes than losing out, as Emma Simpson reports.
It's a tale of two high streets. On the left, there's Bolton, where many business rates are going down. On the right, London's Brick Lane, once down at heel and now the home of hipsters, where rates are going up. The owner of this chocolate shop currently pays £29,000 in rates. She doesn't know her new bill, but this expert has just worked it out, and it's not good.
Unfortunately, your bill over the next 5 years will increase to £47,000 per annum. It's effectively a 62% increase over the 5 years.
I'm speechless. If we can afford it, it will be just by the skin of our teeth. I was completely not aware of it, but we'll just try and do the best that we can.
It's all change on business rates, from shops and pubs to offices and warehouses. It affects 1.85 million properties in England alone. It's set to rake in £23.5 billion for the Treasury this year. The government says 920,000 businesses will see their bills go down. 420,000 will stay the same. But to make the sums add up, it means a hefty burden for the rest, more than 500,000 of them whose bills are going up.
The level of increases is just enormous, and it's very difficult to see any business, particularly when business rates are often the third largest outgoing, to sustain that level of increase. It's very difficult to see those businesses really continue to exist.
This is the biggest shake-up to business rates in a generation. Streets like this one will have to share a far bigger burden than they used to because property values have gone up. But in other parts of the country, the changes will bring much needed relief. Back to Bolton and a family-run bakery who reckon they're one of the winners.
Our rateable value, especially in this premises, has gone down. And we are a net gain in this shop by about just over £4,000 a year. So I've got to say, we quite like it.
Under devolution, there are changes in Scotland and Wales too. For instance, Edinburgh Castle will see its rates rocket. Northern Ireland won't get an overhaul for another few years. In England, the government says the changes will be phased in and more will benefit than lose out. But for those that do, life may be far from sweet. Emma Simpson, BBC News, Brick Lane.
There's a growing revolt on the high streets across England and Wales against the government's changes to business rates. Some pubs and shops say that they will face a crippling rise of thousands of pounds a year when their premises are revalued in April, and they are angry the government is limiting the number of businesses who can appeal. But ministers say the majority won't face a rise and insist the changes are fair.
Regulars arriving for a Friday night drink at The Boot in St Albans tonight are being asked to back a new campaign to save their pub, which is facing a potentially crippling 51% increase in its business rates from April. Landlords across the city are being presented with similar eye-watering hikes, so they've joined a growing rates revolt to force the government to rethink.
Talking about an increase of nearly £40,000, so that's like a couple of full-time members of staff or a new manager. That's equivalent to about 22,000 pints of beer extra we'd have to sell just to pay for this one tax increase.
This is the first revaluation for 7 years instead of the normal 5. The government claims the rates for 3/4 of businesses will stay the same or fall. But rising property prices in the southeast means businesses like those in St Albans will go up, while those in struggling towns such as Blackpool could fall by as much as 50%. In a prosperous place like St Albans, virtually every business is going to face a steep rise. And critics predict that it could be the single biggest blow to the high street since the financial crash. Some of the UK's largest retailers today complain that the appeals procedure is unfair. Appeals will be rejected if they're judged to be within a reasonable margin of error.
It really is very unfair when businesses are already paying far too much in business rates to say, actually, we're going to penalise you still further by not allowing for corrections of inaccurate valuations.
There is a transition fund, but smaller independent shops fear they'll still suffer.
We take pride in the fact that we have so many independent businesses here. We're worried that, the effect on these businesses will mean that we just become like any other town with big chains taking over, with no, independence here anymore.
People using the pubs and shops are being encouraged to sign a petition calling for a fundamental review to spread the burden of these rate rises more evenly. Juliet Bremner, News at 10, St Albans.